Yo, YouTube, what is going on? Back at it with another video. And in today's video, I have something different for you guys. Normally, I do not do reaction videos, but this is not a typical reaction video, guys, as I do encourage you guys to watch this full video, as this video is called The 4-Star Situation is Bad, Santontas. And I want to give my insight on the whole 4-star situation, guys, as I'm not sure if he's going to talk about the characters or if he's just going to talk about the weapons. And I think right now in Wuthering Waves, Kuro Games has a serious problem for free-to-play and light spenders. What do I mean by that? Well, Kuro Games rewarded us so heavily in the beginning of the year. A lot of us have spent it on the characters, more so on the character banners, right? And we've collected multiple units. The thing is, if you're like me, and I'm a content creator, but it may be different for you guys have probably picked out certain characters and built them up. For me, I build up all the characters. I like to test them and play with them. I don't refresh as often, guys. I'm not really a believer in refresh because I like to keep an authentic experience to you guys. But I have understood, guys, that even though you have multiple characters, the weapon choices in the game are not great. How many of you guys have watched any of my guides or pre-release guides or early analysis guides, right? Normally I do about 2, maybe 3 sometimes, but genuinely, right, when I say what's the best weapons, other than their signature and the standard like 5-star weapons, right, rarely do I ever mention 4 stars. Now with the newer units that have been releasing, I have mentioned 4-star weapons that are alternative weapons, right? But most of the time when I mention a 4-star weapon, it is the what's the thing called, the battle pass weapons, you guys, and that's not very free to play friendly. So I can understand for free to play, even though you can use a 4-star and still get good damage, it's significantly higher for a standard 5-star weapon from the standard banner or the signature weapon. That being said, Kuro has given us a lot of pulls, so I'm giving them leverage, because in the beginning of the year I also did say, if you had your favorite characters and stuff like that and you're good to go and you wanted limited characters instead of the standard units, I vouch for, instead of pulling on the standard banner, pulling on the weapon banner, because the weapons are guaranteed, and the weapons when it comes to tower adversity are universal, and you know what I mean, they're not like gated like in Genshin, Honkai, and stuff like that. When you're locked into the end game mode, right, that weapon is locked on that character. In Wuthering, it's not locked on that character. You play one side of the tower, and if you're like, let's just say tomorrow, guys, like Zhezhi and Xian, right? You use both those characters. Both are broad blade users, but you only have Xian's weapon, let's say, right? Well, you can use Xian's weapon on Xian, but after you're done with that side, you can still use Xian's weapon on Zhezhi if you didn't pull for Jinxi's weapon. So that's the benefit that I will say Kuro Games does have, is that you don't get locked. But let's watch this video, guys. Enough yapping. I want to give you guys constructive criticism and my honest thoughts about this whole situation.
A guaranteed weapon banner, incredibly powerful effects, shareable equipment across endgame content. There's no doubt at all for any player familiar with other popular gacha games that Wuthering Waves has one of the most generous and player-friendly weapon systems across the genre. Unfortunately, this generosity has come with a price. 5-star weapons, specifically the limited ones, are some of the most valuable pieces of equipment in the game. Part of this is because of their fantastic base stats, incredible critical boosts, and powerful weapon effects. The other part is because of how genuinely bad many of the 4-star weapons are. While a player has the potential to pull and upgrade these weapons.
Okay, I don't want to already pause in the video, guys, but like I said, I agree with this statement, guys. A lot of people are sometimes, I'm not going to even say a lot of people because I think the general consensus understands, but even I said, but I get 1 or 2 comments, guys, right? From 1 or 2 people who always talk about, why don't you go more in depth of the free to play like 4 stars? Guys, when you look at the free to play 4 stars that they give us, they're all terrible. And I'm not even joking with you guys. Like, I wish I could recommend you guys some more free-to-play 4 stars, right? Majority of the time, they're trash. And they don't, like, the scaling, like, you see how that says double attack, right? I always see other ones where it's like, oh, yeah, energy regen and defense and other stuff. And I'm like, we don't need that. Like, why is there not more free crit rate options? Why is there not more free crit damage options? Where are those? Like, 4 stars. I feel like one thing that Kuro Games does have to improve and address. I mean, they don't have to necessarily address it, but I will say for at least my free to plays, I'll speak out for my free to plays right now. If you're free to play, let me represent you. Then hopefully this video does good. I do think Kuro should at least include 1 or 2 good 4-star options where we can get multiple copies. That way, like, we don't have to pull for every other weapon. You know what I mean? But again, let me know how you guys feel down in the comment section. Let's keep watching the video.
Weapons at a much faster pace. Oftentimes, their combination of main stat and weapon effects, even at max rank, pales in comparison to the other limited options. There's no problem at all with more expensive weapons resulting in better performance, but that gap is wide, and it extends beyond performance in combat. Today we'll be discussing the power level of 4-star weapons. Not just from a combat perspective, but from an account building one as well. 4-star weapons limit your options across your gameplay in more ways than you might think. Outside of dealing less damage, 4-star weapons also severely limit the viability of your echoes, your resource efficiency, and even team synergies.
True,
We'll be breaking
I
down
agree.
why this is the case, and why pulling for 5-star weapons can actually be one of the most efficient ways to optimize your account, even as a low spender or free to play. When it comes to 4-star weapons, outside of those in the battle pass, virtually every single one has a secondary main stat of attack percentage, defense percentage, or energy regeneration percentage.
Yep.
This effectively splits the weapons across 3 categories: offense, defense, and support. These defensive and supportive weapons are some of the best in the game, primarily due to the fact that they have no 5-star options. The Concerto energy regeneration weapons in particular are some of the most powerful. The low base attack on these weapons and 4-star weapons in general, which can
And that's the one thing I will say, guys. I feel like the only 4-stars that are even viable are this, like, you see variation. I don't know what class again, but you know what I mean. It's like all the weapon class that Verena uses, the supportive type ones for 4-stars. I do think there are some options that are always going to be viable because support units are always easier to build up. And that's the one thing, you guys, I would say looking forward is that if you guys don't have a Verena, let's say, right, guys, and you're going to want a future sustain unit, which is a lot of people actually, it's like surprisingly, a lot of people either want a second sustain for their second team comp, or they just don't have Arena and they do want to sustain. One of the big benefits I will say is with the weapon options for those characters, for the defensive / supportive types, the 4-stars are at least good. So when I do make guides on those or stuff like that, at least you guys will have good options right there, and it'll be more free to play friendly. But for DPSs and sub DPSs, man, it feels like a low blow not getting their weapon or at least having the standard 5-star.
severely impact the personal damage of a character typically isn't a concern, as these characters that use these weapons typically don't care about their damage, or their damage scales with a different stat, like defense for Tao Chi. On the other hand, for offensive weapons, the entire opposite is the case. With lowered base attack stats and a main stat that is typically attack, these weapons at a baseline don't feel that great. When compared to
True.
5-star weapons, the lowered base attack on the 4-stars, even combined with their attack main stat, has a huge impact. Every percentage stat boost in the game, be it from your echoes or character abilities, scales off this base attack. Oftentimes, the attack main stat on these 4-star weapons just barely makes up for this difference in base attack, and only once a character is at very high levels to allow the base attack of that character, which is included in the percentage calculation, to have a greater impact. Coupled with the fact that these 5-star weapons are bundled with a critical rate or critical damage secondary main stat, the end result.
What did I say, guys? I know I keep pausing in between, guys, just to get my input, but one of the things I was thinking about while he said the crit rate thing, guys, keep in mind, who remembers, you guys know the exact name I'm talking about. I don't know the name because I'm always bad with names, but the weapon on the battle pass, right, that you could use for Yin Lin, right? I know there's crit rate on that weapon, I believe, guys, but okay, and I want you guys to understand something, right? You guys pay, what, $10? Some of you pay $20 for the battle pass, right? What I find so atrocious is, like, I think even the crit rate value for that 4-star is, like, I think it's significantly lower than what it could be. Like, I would wish that the thing with me is with the 5-star weapons is when they do their little passives or like the bonuses that you get on the weapon besides, the attack scaling or the crit rate, crit damage. You know what I'm talking about, where it's like you get 12% bonus when you activate skill, like that description of the weapon, right? I almost wish that the description of the weapon, which on the 4-star isn't as good, right? Which it isn't already, right? As the 5-star counterpart, but at least the crit values and attack would be the same. That being said, I understand what category game we're in. We're in gotcha, but I almost feel like if you're paying $10 to $20 for a battle pass, you can at least do that.
Result is that your 4-star weapons are effectively missing a whole secondary main stat compared to 5-star weapons. When the second main stat is basically equivalent to the raw stats you get from a plus 25 untuned 4-cost Echo, you are missing a lot of stats just from using a 4-star weapon. This isn't even counting the weapon effects. The lack of critical stats on every 4-star weapon outside of the Battle Pass is another huge issue, especially when it comes to resource management and echo building. When you're building and farming for a DPS character using a 4-star weapon, oftentimes the only viable 4-cost you can use is one with crit rate. Going with critical damage will make it impossible to have a reasonable critical ratio across your character. Similarly, to get that crit rate up to usable, around 65% for a character, you'll need to combine that crit rate main stat on your 4-cost with a crit rate roll on virtually every single piece. This makes your farming process incredibly painful when gearing your characters. Optimizing for only 1 or 2 stats in particular means that you'll have less viable options when it comes to your Echo main stats, and a mandatory requirement for crit rate across your substats. If you're
Dude, it's so crazy how it's easier to farm for Zhezhi and Xiangliyao because you can use either Emerald or Genesis because the damage drop off isn't that like significant to her main weapon. It's literally they're about the same, maybe like a 7% difference, I believe. But Xian, man, dude, the fact even Xian's weapon, as amazing as it is, right? Dude, crit damage main stats are always like the amount of crit rate you need, right? And I get the average person who's watching this video right now or just playing the game probably averages around like, what do you guys average? You would say like 60% crit rate, right? And about 50 something to 60. I'd feel like the casual or average player doesn't have as much time to like go out into the world. I mean, you can do the tacit fields, but I've talked about like the tacit fields, guys. I don't think the ratio that they give you for the echoes is good for the amount of stamina you spent. I get it's the equivalent to like other things. I kind of wish that's like one thing they would look at in the future is like, hey, you reach this higher level, let's give you double the amount of echoes, right? Or if you're not going to give us double the amount of echoes, I do think, and I think a lot of people who have made it this far will agree with me in the video, we need more Echo EXP materials because both of those is like, it's a pain, man. And I understand like this is all RNG. There are times like for me building Zhezhi or Xiangliyao, it was really easy, wasn't that hard, right? But don't worry, I know some of you are thinking right now, oh, it was hard for me to build a certain character. Do I not have that problem? No, guys, my problem was with Xian, man. I farmed the 3-cost either it's the car or the Hu Chief, even the bird, right, guys? I can't even get arrow damage element, you know what I mean, to even drop out of that. Then the fact that that's already difficult, and those 3, I swear the wind creatures are the hardest. Like the wind echoes are the hardest and most annoying to farm, especially the Hu Chiefs because they waste so much time, man, throwing that circle field. It's like, why? Just let me just quickly nuke you and get on with my day. But yeah, man, and for you not to get arrow damage after that, for you not to get it from the tacit fields, and then for you to roll, and then for you to miss on all of them, I will say that is a demoralizing feeling. If we had more like Echo EXPs, and let's say we were getting multiple, right, and we just miss, but we can keep re-rolling into it, I think we'd be fine. The other thing I think that Kuro should update in this game, and this is just a pro tip, they should allow us to dismantle the gold echoes that we are never going to use and get XP in return out of it. or just even use the zero cost, the ones we're never gonna upgrade, and just put them all into another Echo. And no, before someone comments, I'm not talking about, oh, I know someone's gonna say, isn't that in the game? You level it up. I'm talking about not leveling it up. I'm talking about it just sits there. The ones you're never gonna use, you can dump them into the Echo you want to upgrade, and boom, EXP materials right there.
Someone who's been rolling to optimize echoes, you'll understand that this will dramatically increase the time that it takes for you to get a working equipment set for a character. This
100%.
means more tuners, more echo experience, and more farming to get your character in a usable state. This also means more frustration, bad rolls, and tuners evaporating into thin air. In a lot of ways, saving your resources by working with cheaper equipment can result in more expenses later down the road. It's eerily similar to real life. Pulling that 5-star weapon is a big upfront expenditure, but it saves you a lot in the long run, especially if you're looking to get your stats to a certain level to challenge endgame content. Plus, you're guaranteed to get this power and efficiency. Building and upgrading 4-cost weapons also comes with another devastating downside: sunk costs. Early on in the game during Yinlin's release, I made a terrible mistake. With Jinzhou Keeper, a respectable 4-star stat stick on her banner, I made the hasty decision to save some resources and build her around that 4-star weapon instead of her signature, String Master. Then I remembered I had Encore on my account as well.
Wait a minute. Is he free to play? If he's free to play, right, then I understand what he's talking about. If this man's not free to play and he's a light spender, right, surely he knew there was a battle pass weapon, right, that would have got him crit rate. Surely, right?
Well, and realized that by pulling String Master, I could upgrade 2 extremely powerful characters at once. I pulled Yinlin's weapon. It's great. I also have a level 60 or 70 Jinzhou Keeper in my inventory. Because of the ability to share weapons in endgame content, I will likely never need to use Jinzhou Keeper ever again. I will never get those hundreds of thousands of credits, weapon experience, and skill upgrade materials back. In short, 4-star weapons are even worse to level up because of the ability to share weapons in endgame content. As you progress through the game and build up your roster, pulling for one limited 5-star weapon can potentially gear 2, 3, or even 4 characters at
Literally
once,
what I said.
and almost all of the time, this will be an upgrade. As the game's roster only grows with each new release, the value of your existing 5-star weapons can only increase. My advice to every player is to simply build up that arsenal. Pull a limited 5-star weapon for every weapon class. Sure, you might not have the most synergistic weapon effect and character kit combination.
Okay, he's saying pull a limited 5-star weapon of every class, right? Let's be real though, right? What he's saying is a little bit unrealistic, especially if you're free to play or light spender, because number one, what he's talking about, okay, let's go over this. How many of us want 5-star characters in the game right now, right? A lot of us wanted Xian, right? And if you didn't want Xian, you wanted Yinlin. And let's be real, I know majority of the community, there is a small percent, no doubt people want Camilla. I'm hoping one day we get a Geshu Lin announcement, right, guys? But the issue is, number one, getting the character is mostly primary for almost everybody. And I mean that everybody wants to play with a new character, okay, that they're interested in. That takes a lot of astrite. Even though you can get a character at 70, right? That is a lot of astrite you're burning through. So you would have to pull it early. But here's the other issue on top of that, right? I don't know if y'all's gacha luck is better than mine. My gacha luck in Honkai Star Rail is amazing. My gacha luck in Wuthering Waves, guys, has been terrible. I have lost every single 50-50. Dude, I have an R2 Janshin. I have an R2 Verena, okay? I didn't even it's so crazy to me because I lose the 50-50. I want to put this into a free-to-play or light spender's perspective. Imagine spending all that astrite, not even getting the character, losing the 50-50. How are you supposed to go for the weapon? Now, if he means overtime, sure, but it's going to get hard, guys, because the characters they're making are really good, and then they synergize with another unit currently. Like I said, Zhezhi is around the corner, guys. We don't know if she's going to be first or second right now as far as the banner is concerned, right? But even her, she is going to be able to buff Xiangli, Jinxie, Lin Yang, and we'll see her multipliers and what they do with the character, right? And how strong she's going to be, and what they change before release day of her kit. Because who knows if they make her stronger, change some wording, and then she synergizes with more units. Then we're all going to be looking like, oh, well, we'd be dumb not to pull that unit. Now, of course, you're not interested in her design or animations. You can easily skip. But I feel like he's underestimating the value is that most people, male or female, are waifu and husbando collectors first. And what do you have to do? You have to win the 50-50 first, okay? So I think if he means long-term, sure. But I also think it's very unrealistic for a light spender or free-to-play to try to build up that arsenal as quickly as he may be talking about.
Like Jin C, who does resonance skill damage working with Jian's weapon that grants heavy attack damage, but her performance on a limited 5-star weapon will be much better than any of the 4 stars. This also makes the character building process, specifically for DPS characters, far more manageable in the long run. Viewing these weapon pulls as an investment in your account rather than an expenditure is a perspective that makes a lot of sense, especially when every single weapon is guaranteed. At the end of the day, Kuro has to make money. I have no doubt in my mind that the game's systems of a guaranteed weapon matter, weapon sharing, and the poor performance of many 4-star weapons are designed to persuade players to pull on those limited weapon banners. 100%
I agree with that.
But in a lot of ways, Kuro is using the carrot instead of the stick to motivate us. They're providing more benefits to pulling these weapons instead of drawbacks. It would have been easy to lock echo and weapons to a character once they're used in the tower, but they didn't. Hopefully, this overview was helpful in highlighting just how effective a 5-star limited weapon is, even if its stat bonuses don't perfectly line up with a character. The upside of pulling these weapons is huge, and in my opinion, can do more for your account and its progression than you might think. Peace out.
Yeah, great video, guys. Go check out Saint Thanatos. I apologize if I butchered his name incorrectly, guys. I wanted to say one thing, though. I agree with 90% of his points made in this video, but one issue that I would say that he's not mentioning, while he is mentioning all the benefits of pulling the weapon, how Kuro doesn't lock you, which is better than any other gacha game right now out on the market and their system. The unfortunate reality is, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I believe 50% of the community is free to play. I believe that 20%, maybe even 25%, right? Which would equal 75% now, because we're adding that 25 is light spenders. And I believe the other 25%, which would complete making it the 100%, are the whales. You know what I mean? So while 50% of the community, I say, could access, like the light spenders can access some weapons, you know what I mean, quicker than free to play, obviously. Whales are going to get everything, so their units are going to be powerful. It's just going to take time to build them up. I do feel like free to play is being left behind a little bit in the dust. So the only way I feel like they can compensate it is to make the character so powerful even without the weapon. But even with Zhezhi and Xiangliyao coming out, it feels like they need their weapons, right? Especially Xiangliyao, because we don't have a good alternative option really for him. But good video. Like I said, guys, let me know what you guys think of this video. It's a little bit different. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my reaction and insight addressing this. Shout out to Sanitos. Great video, man. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, guys. If you guys want me doing more content like this, informative and reacting, please let me know what videos you guys want me to see. I always recommend dropping suggestions down below if you guys want my input and take on something. That's it for this video, guys, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.